background footage. But yeah, he didn't take too well to that tear gas. It was quite funny to watch. I sat there for a few minutes and I took it about as long as I could. But this time we're actually prepared from the beginning of the mission all the way to the end. We've got our armor, we've got our phones, we've got our chargers, we've got our gas mask, and we are just ready to broadcast this. And hopefully everybody finds this informative and shares this with everyone else so we can get truth out there about what's really going on.
Do you think you've had enough time to prepare being there for 10 days?
I don't think there's any way to prepare for the possibilities of what could happen tonight.
Yeah.
To be quite honest, it's one of those things I'm just like, I feel like I did before I went on combat missions in Afghanistan, just that unknown of what could happen around the next corner, or driving over a pothole and wondering whether or not that'd be the last thing I ever saw before I blew up. So, but other than that, it's peachy.
Right. Well, and the weather has played a part in this too. When you guys first got there, it was what, 17 degrees, getting really cold at night. Now it's not as bad, but what's the weather like right now?
It's not as windy as it was this afternoon. This afternoon it was, I think it was 31, and it was windy as all get out. I mean, it was horribly frigid. I've actually got on 3 jackets and 3 pairs of pants right now. So I think it's around 30 something, but usually when it gets about 10 o'clock, the temperature starts dropping pretty fast, and by 1 o'clock in the morning, it's just so cold, it's almost unbearable.
Wow. 3 pairs of pants. That's amazing.
Yep. And some giant winter boots I bought.
Yeah.
And they're fantastic.
Well, the cold definitely makes you prepare. I've been up in Alaska. I've been at Maine in January and December, and let me tell you, there's nothing like frigid cold weather. I've been out in it all. Never in a situation like this, though, with this many protesters, this many police, this amount of controlled police state going on around you. That's really an amazing situation, and you've had at least probably close to 20 days in this, right? If you count them all up, all your trips.
In Ferguson, yeah, I spent 2 weeks, so 14 days I'm going on, 24 now here.
Yeah.
So almost a month I've spent in Ferguson over the past few trips here. So it's been interesting. Overall, like I said, and I've said this time and time again, I've done numerous radio shows over the past few months, just talking to people about, everyone's interested about what's happening in Ferguson. Everyone's always wondering whether or not it's as racially divided as the MSM makes it out to be. And quite honestly, it's not that way at all. I mean, there's people out here right now of every color, religion. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, everyone's hurt and or affected in some way by police brutality, whether it be someone or in your neighborhood or state. It's happening everywhere. And that's one of the main reasons why everyone's out here standing together, because it doesn't matter if you're black, white, whatever. I mean, anybody can be shot by a police officer. Anything like that can happen. And like I've said before, we're not saying that all police officers are bad. I've got some of my family that are quite outstanding, God-fearing men who love the Constitution, and they do everything to the T perfectly right, as much as they can. But, like I said, due to lack of training and leadership, the whole system, in a sense, is broken down, and there's not really much there. There's not a lot of positive leadership with good experience. So that's where a lot of this stuff happens.
It's like our crumbling infrastructure. I mean, we got bridges falling apart. We've got highways falling apart.
It's
buildings.
Like a controlled demolition. It's just free falling.
Yeah, and we've just kind of let our system, we've rested on our laurels for the last 30, 40 years, and things are taking a turn for the worse. And now we're seeing it. We're seeing over 50 million people, or 50 million families on food stamps. We're seeing record numbers of children, homeless, people living barely paycheck to paycheck. And so I understand why people want to fight for more minimum wage. But, you shouldn't, in America, you should not be going, well, I expect to have a minimum wage job. You should try to better yourself and try to move beyond that. And that's what people, I don't think, see, because they've been conditioned and schooled and educated in that mindset that the state is the answer. The government is the answer. If you have a problem, go to the government. The government's going to help you.
There's such a large sense of entitlement now in the youth nowadays as well. Everyone, it's all about give me this, give me that. There's no more setting goals and working hard and trying to do something better for yourself. People just want to go to McDonald's or get a job like that and then expect to make the same wage as someone who's a doctor, a lawyer, something like that. No, that takes time. That takes studying. That takes being dedicated and working hard towards achieving something, and then getting that extra money and feeling proud about yourself and knowing that you accomplished something. There's so many people that I talk to like, oh, I need this, I need that. I don't know where this comes from, but that's one of the main problems here in America. That's something we've got to stop.
You may need something, but you need to learn how to go get it. I mean, we've all, people want to talk about white privilege. No one ever handed me anything. I had to pay off my school loans just like everybody else. I had to go get a mortgage just like everybody else. I had to go through the credit card system and the credit reporting just like everybody else. Nothing was handed to me. I'm not one of these blue bloods, and this is where we're all at. Guys, I'm going to check in with the control room real quick. Is anything going on with this press conference? We're at 8:06 right now.
Nothing yet. It looks like the grand jury announcement is still to be determined.
Oh, so they're going to keep stringing this along.
Yeah. It's a ratings bonanza. So
it sure is.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious as to how many stations right now are covering this immigration bill that was passed by Obama.
Right. Yeah.
I doubt none of them.
Well, see, there's where you're wrong, Joe. It wasn't an immigration bill. He just did it by executive order. He just wrote it up and said, we're going to make you guys legal. And what that did,
while he was on Air Force One as well.
Right. And it's not that, hey, we couldn't absorb 5 million people. It's about the hundreds of millions out there that have said, hey, come on in. We have a border with no fence. We don't, our border patrol is too busy picking up children and giving them bus tickets, so we've got nothing here. Come on in, bring your drugs over here because we're going to be picking up people here. They're gaming this entire system, and it is to destroy this country. It is to destroy this country.
There's a car that is pulled up now. They're blasting the radio, and I'm assuming they're going to use that to play the verdict.
Okay.
So everyone's starting to surround that. But yeah, I mean, I'm curious. As I bet you right now, the White House is rubbing their hands across their eyebrows and going, "Wow, what a sigh of relief! Finally, no one's got that magnifying glass on us here about what we've done." I guarantee you, they're glad that this is happening right now.
No one's going to ask about Chuck Hagel. He's going to be tomorrow's news. It'll be like 20 years ago he resigned.
It'll be like it never existed. By Friday, people are going to be like, who's that?
Look at this empty room they're going to. Or it's 8:08 now, and we're still waiting.
Everybody is pretty much quieting down.
Look, USA Today saying no indictment in Ferguson case. Will not face charges. So USA Today has obviously gotten the message, but they're not going out and announcing that.
Well, we're getting some, according to Brown's family, some people are sort of speculating because Darren Wilson there was no call for him to turn himself in.
Okay.
But now this is breaking that according to the Brown family, so I guess they found out before the rest of the world, which seems like that would have been the appropriate thing to do. So
well, and we knew this was going to leak out as soon as it was made to anybody. This is big news, and nobody's going to sit on it. They're going to tweet it. They're going to talk about it. Have you got the sense, Joe, that anybody's heard this? We just saw on USA Today.
No, everyone is quiet right now. Everyone's got this car surrounded listening to a local station. There's no word thus far of the announcement.
USA Today is reporting no indictment in Ferguson case, which I called that earlier today, that I didn't think that was going to happen.
I said that back in August.
Right. And even Paul Joseph Watson released a video, The Truth About the Michael Brown Case. He presented his, I think, very well laid out version, which probably has more evidence than what the grand jury has even seen. So that's very interesting. Could you guys print off that article and bring it in to me?
Which one are you asking for?
That USA Today one, and I'll read it off the air. And I guess we're bringing it to you first before you're hearing it anywhere else, that there will be no grand jury indictment from that end. So the question is, one, how is this crowd going to react to it? I don't think they're going to be too favorable for this decision. And then two, will the prosecutor come back and say, well, we're going to go ahead and charge him anyway? The prosecutor doesn't look like he's doing that because there hasn't been a call for Brown to turn himself in. Or not Brown, Officer Darren Wilson, sorry. But it's very interesting on what's going on now. Joe, it looks like people are still quiet. They have not got the word yet.
No, no one's gotten the word here yet, even though it's on TV apparently. Right now, it's everyone's standing around this car over here, and they're listening to get the speaker up loud.
And no one's come in this room, into this grand jury room, where we have a live CNN feed that we're going to cut to as soon as somebody pops in, I guess, for the official word. But we already know something that we said is going to happen from the beginning. It didn't look like there was enough evidence. But what the people of Ferguson are mad about, they're not just mad about this one murder. They're mad about this on a lot of different levels, and they've been screaming about it since it happened. So over 100 days now of going out in the streets, of yelling.
Jakari Jackson just pointed out they have already shut down the road. They have police officers maybe a quarter mile, or not even that far, a few hundred yards down the road, blocked off the road, and the vehicles that are here now are now stuck here in the middle of this. No way of getting in or out at this moment. So this place is on lockdown. We haven't heard any announcements from the police. It's quiet on both sides. If I'm not mistaken, I don't see any police officers outside at the moment, is there? Maybe 5? Okay, so 5 over here right near the road. But other than that, most people are inside. I think a lot of them are looking through the windows at us right now with anticipation, just about as much anticipation as all of us here on the ground.
Have you heard any word of what the crowd might do? Anybody saying, we're going to do this, we're going to do that? Has it just been quiet on their end?
There's someone watching a live stream right now. There's a guy who is apparently brandishing a gun. He has on a gray sweater and a red hat, and he says he plans on using it later.
Does he look like a police officer?
No.
Okay. Have you seen anybody carrying glass bottles? I know last time you discovered a bunch of glass bottles underneath a dumpster and went to point that out to the police, and they said nothing.
We showed that spot on the Ustream the other day, the other night. It was actually right before the car wreck happened. I was actually shooting down to the left with the camera, and you could actually see that same metal container. And I was pointing out that that's where we'd found those, or I had found those. And I walked over to the police officers and brought it to their attention. Nothing was done about it. And then eventually, yes, they were used. So, hopefully that doesn't happen again. Hopefully people will, or the police will be a little bit more receptive if someone sees something or decides to give them a heads up that can, cause bodily harm to other people out here, or more than likely just trying to be peaceful. And like I said earlier, just wanting some closure, because there's a giant gaping wound here in Ferguson, and it's festering up, and people just want some healing.
Well, I want to read this out. This is from USA Today at 9:01 p.m. Eastern, which is 8:01 Central. We're now at 8:13, and we've still received no official word from whoever's going to make the announcement. I guess the prosecutor over in Clayton. No indictment in Ferguson case. If you guys could go to the overhead camera on this. Yeah, there you go. No indictment in Ferguson case. A white police officer will not face charges for fatally shooting an unarmed black teenager in a case that set off violent protests and racial unrest throughout the country, an attorney close to the case said Monday night. The St. Louis County grand jury declined to indict Officer Darren Wilson, 28, for firing 6 shots in an August confrontation that killed 18-year-old Michael Brown, said Benjamin Crump, an attorney for the family. The decision has long been awaited, and following rioting that resembled war zone news footage in this predominantly black suburb of St. Louis. Missouri Governor Jay Nixon, a Democrat, called for calm after calling up the National Guard troops to stand by in case of unrest. Speaking before the decision was announced, he had urged that regardless of the decision, people on all sides need to show tolerance and mutual respect and restraint. So hopefully he's calling for the police to do that as well as the crowds. Crowds gathered around Ferguson Police Headquarters in anticipation of the announcement at the courthouse in Clayton, Missouri, another St. Louis suburb. A 12-person grand jury has been considering whether probable cause existed to bring charges against Wilson, 28, the white officer who fatally shot Brown, an 18-year-old black man, after their August 9th confrontation. The shooting inflamed tensions in a largely minority community that is patrolled by an overwhelmingly white police force. Brown's lifeless and bleeding body lay for more than 4 hours in a Ferguson residential street after the shooting, prompting dismay and anger as the crowd gathered. Protests turned to rioting and looting the following night. Police responded with armored vehicles, tear gas, triggering a nationwide debate over police tactics. The 12-person grand jury, including 9 whites and 3 African Americans, had been meeting in secret for months, hearing evidence and weighing whether Wilson should face charges that range from involuntary manslaughter to murder. So there you have it. That is at least the semi-official word coming from the attorney of the Brown family. And so, well, now we know what this verdict is. What's going to be interesting to see is what happens when the rest of the crowd finds out. It's amazing that we could be in the Central Texas Command Center, deep behind enemy lines, bringing you this information.
I don't want to get caught up.
And now I do want to mention, we've been going